Okay, everybody, welcome back, Learning from Home. And we've got a new twist with the new year. We're a bit late to the New Year resolutions, but our resolution is to explore the future workplace, given that learning from home is basically now the norm. So we're going to kick off this series now with some exploring what does the future workplace look at. And I know this has been a big topic for you, Madeline. So welcome both Phil and Madeline, and
Thank
future
you.
workplace. And how are things before we dive into the future workplace with both of you? Phil, we just missed your sabotage from your filters of. I know we got this YouTube going around with the cat, but you had a moustache 5 minutes ago rehearsing, and also you were a cowboy. But what's happening over there, Phil? Lockdown is it's been hijacked.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And now you're the police.
It's been pretty tough over here. Interestingly, I've got to say that one of the things that is going on at the moment is, we've got the vaccination. There's a little bit of hope for society. I think from a working perspective, we're all resigned to be very much working from home for a significant period of time. Yeah. And when we do, it'll be the hybrid type of environment that we're going to be talking about today. So definitely a hot topic for many, many people in this country.
Yeah, and I think it couldn't be any hotter than Madeline. You're actually been involved in a big project at your bank regarding this series. Do you want to talk more about that? Because you've got a real life case study that is actually unfolding, which most organizations are going to be going through. So do you want to expand
of course, I'm
and
happy
discuss?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, this is something that we've been discussing since, I think, a year back, us three. So it's obviously quite close to my heart. But I'm happy to be part of this proof of concept, or this pilot, that one part of the business will be discussing how will the future workplace look like, what will be the challenges, how... I mean, everything related to it, everything from legal aspects to mental aspects to physical aspects, everything. Because just let's face it, we've been working the same way since in industrialism. So we've been going back and forth to our jobs from 8 to 5, despite the digitalization hitting us. And now it's really time for a change.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point, because you think about it, we've been since the 2000.com era, we have this unfolding of new digital tools. We've had we have Zoom, Teams, all these things that a lot of companies just been storing on their shelf, not using them. And now with COVID, it's actually forced people to oh, Zoom actually does work, and we actually can have video meetings on a standard practice rather than only use it if you're sick. So it's actually been brilliant that now that we're actually using for real these digital tools rather than using it as an ad hoc basis. Phil, what's your opinion? Oh, sorry, Madeline, go on.
No, sorry, I just wanted to add on that and just the acknowledgement that we are not going to stay 5 days a week at the same at the office, because it doesn't make sense that most of us, when back to what we discussed in this podcast several times, that when we produce and need to sort of just be not disturbed, we will most likely sit from home and produce. When we need to socialize and meet stakeholders, that's when we are going to go to the office and meet our teams and so on. And that will not be 5 days in a week. So it will more likely be like a 2 or 3 days a week hybrid model as we're in. And also that I read this week that Spotify is opening up to employees that they will be able to work from anywhere forever. Which I think is very interesting news, and we are just behind them in that. And I think it's interesting, but in order to succeed here, we must also consider the legislation, what we discussed previously as well. What does this really mean for companies when the employees are not traveling to work or staying in at work when work is from home?
Yeah, and I think that's, as I say, it's simple to say, I'm going to work from home, but as I say, there's a lot more things that to be taken care of in terms of, as you say, when you're sick or if you have an accident down the stairs, during workout, is it a workplace accident, all these things. And I know we have the virtual couch, you're sitting on the couch there, and I think future episodes we'll have a guest on your couch, Madeline, to answer some of these questions. You have a legal experts we've been discussing regarding this. So a lot of the things we're going to unfold today about what is the future workplace going to look like. a lot of those questions, we're actually going to start having guests coming up to the next series to answer some of those questions regarding sort of the mental element, which is a huge thing, stress, and how can you be mindful of that, the legal aspects, psychology aspects. So that's some of the things we're going to start now interacting with other people, experts, rather than us answering all the questions ourselves. So everybody, questions and answers are going to be coming your way. So that's exciting things. And I think as this unfolds, also people are being creative about how they make, rather than leading from home, working from home, what does it look like? Like for me, I've been now, for those who have the YouTube version of this podcast, I've just decked out my corner of the living room, which is my office, into a mini Australia. I've got some pictures of the beaches, the swimming pools that I normally swim in Australia at this time of year, because these things give me inspiration. So I think for people that, rather than saying, oh, I hate working in my small office or I'm sick of the view, spice it up, find some nice pictures, buy some new art, or do different things to make your little office or your little room in your house a creative workspace or an inspiring workspace if it's not working for you, because trying to hold on to it going, oh, when will this be over so I can go back to my desk in the office isn't the answer you're going to have. So what have you guys been doing in terms of, now we've both been standing up, but is anything inspiring or creative that you guys have done with your offices or workspace?
I mean, I've been changing the artwork behind me. So this is a painting that was done by my sister-in-law. So that's been up there a few weeks. I've got a couple of other posters and I kind of swap them around. That's been up a little longer than before. I'm very conscious of the fact that the stuff behind me is what people see on a regular basis. I see on a regular basis because I'm watching myself on the screen sort of 6 hours a day every day. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more interesting. I think that helps.
That's a good point. That's part of too. I also had these pictures behind me, as well as that. I'm very cautious that almost every meeting you have now is with video, and also podcast that people ask in the background. Oh, what's that picture in the background? You saw it's it's my beach from Australia. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. Having your personality be on display in your house rather than trying to cover it up. So letting yourself be more than just the screen. Talk about whether it be your kids, popping into a thing. Before we switch to the topics in your workplace, Madeline, particularly, there was talk about workplace creativity. There was one of my friends who is a keynote speaker and a very popular strategist regarding creativity and leadership. He did a keynote speech last week on his bike, and I'll put this in the show notes. It has gone massively popular across LinkedIn. But basically, he shows people that says, I don't have time to do exercise and I don't have time to go for a ride or run. He just showed you to a full paid conference, delivered an hour's keynote speech over video, of course, in his cycling gear, riding at a slow pace, talking, delivering, to show to everybody there's no excuse to say you don't have time, because and he showed the full setup of having his computer on a bike stand, so we can do Zoom calls and read emails and these type of things on your bike. And people have been flooding in with, oh, how do I find the stand? How do you do it? Some tips. So people now have opened up to us. Hey, if I'm watching a TED talk or having a team meeting, you can say, is it okay if I did it on my bike for half an hour? So for all our cyclists and exercise, be creative. So I'll put that in the show notes, because there's been, I think he's had over a couple of thousand views already, and that's and people have been massively inspired. So it's called the bike brain. So there you go. Madeline, do you want to talk about this? Now we go to this workplace series. Just briefly, what are some of the key things you're focusing on in your study here, and also some ideas regarding companies to embrace on something similar?
I think one of the interesting things that came out from the discussion from our own leadership team was the reflection made that the meetings now has been more equal. And equal in that sense that when we meet, everybody are on Teams. And I think that is an interesting takeaway for when we look at the future workplace, that most likely we will say we will continue to have virtual meetings, and once every quarter, all will meet in person.
Yeah.
But when we have the virtual team meetings, everybody should stay virtual because it creates a totally different dynamic.
Yeah. Phil, what's your take on this? Because I know, so going back to the classes we did with you regarding remote coaching, remote communication, having a hybrid where you have people in a room physically and then the people dialing in over the phone, having a dynamics, the pros and cons. How do you see the effectiveness of having everybody in one mode of communication, or like virtual?
Okay. Well, just before I get into the hybrid space, just a quick shout out to a guy called Ben Pring from the Centre for the Future of Work, because he summarized the future of the office very simply. He said, the office will be for heads up work and the home will be for heads down work. And I just think if you take that, Madeline, into your discussions, heads up, is it heads up stuff?
Yeah.
Then let's go in the office. If it's heads down stuff, you don't need to be in the office.
Yeah.
And,
I'm noting that as we speak. I think that was excellent put.
Yeah,
and
well,
I'll put the link to Ben's work on the show notes for Phil, because I think I haven't come across it, but I think that's as companies plan for these things, I think rather than reinvent the wheel, like they should look at these experts, because this hasn't been this, coming up all of a sudden. It's been going for quite some time.
Yeah, Ben's doing some good stuff. So now let's move on to hybrid. I mean, I'll start with a reflection of an awful experience that I had pre-lockdown, of being invited remotely to a face-to-face meeting. And remember, I'll never forget the experience of the camera of the laptop that I was connected to being turned on and seeing the back of a chair. Because that was basically, that was my view of the audience. It was the back of a chair. I could see absolutely nothing. And of course, we can understand that at the time, people didn't understand what it was like being virtual, connecting in to people who are face to face. Now, I think the one great thing about the situation we're now in is that everybody, whether they will be working from home or back in the office, know what it's like to be dialing in from home. And they will understand now, in a way that they never understood before, the psychological dynamics that start taking place when you've got 3 or 4 people sat in a table, with the body language, with the non-verbal communication going on constantly, and somebody or several people being remote with none of the access to that non-verbal communication taking place, or at the best an extremely limited amount of it. And I think being mindful of that situation will certainly shift and improve the dynamics of these hybrid type situations, which I think, as you quite rightly say, will be very much part and parcel of the future. Although I love, Madeline, the idea that you're proposing that once a quarter, everyone gets in and they meet in a face-to-face environment, and that people share the pain in between time. And even if you are physically in the office, you still log in individually, so that actually you have that equality of pain for everyone to go through, being remote just as they were before.
Yeah, I think this hybrid model that everybody does, I think it should be really customized for each company, and that's where the things we talked about last year, the walk and talks, so the lab exercise, the Friday Zoom, for us, either a Friday beer or a Zoom beer, everything's, take some of the inspiration to blend into your own hybrid model, because the technology there works, and these things, people need variation, or like their walk and talk, rather than having a one-to-one at a screen every week. So I think what I could recommend is that, mix things up. Like don't just go to how do I bring a physical model virtually? Do it differently, that make it employee manager win-win rather than be rigid. So I think that's my take on it. Phil, I know I think you and I talked about the Harvard Review for those people, the work from anywhere future. For those who haven't read it, did you have any takeaways from some of the articles that that came out, was it last month?
Yeah, I think for me one of the most interesting pieces relates to one of our core topics that we've talked about over the month, and that's trust. It was a very, very interesting article that kind of says, when there is a hybrid situation, will the people working remotely be treated differently from the people who don't work remotely? Will there be a trust penalty put on people who choose, for all the right reasons, not to be in the office environment? And they were just saying that this whole ebb and flow of control and trust, which has been kind of coming to and from ever since the lockdown began. When we come back to some hybrid model, that is going to be a very interesting dynamic for leaders to keep their heads around.
Yeah.
Am I disadvantaging people who are still working remotely compared to the ones who are choosing to come into the office?
Yeah.
When it is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose on another curveball, which I love throwing to both of you, is how do you manage the wife and husband relationship? Because if everybody's going to be working from home more often, and this is already happening with friends that I know of, when you share an office, husband and wife at home, and you have a fight for, like, I have a meeting, oh, so do I, and you're in the same room and you have a small house. What tips can you do for having this standoff in terms of who leaves the office and who does their phone calls somewhere else around the house if you start clashing in schedules or you have a workshop that you need to do at home? So, Madeline, tips for managing the leading from home, working from home within...
Good question. Now, I'm divorced, so I'm probably not the right person to ask. But if I would give any kind of tip, I would say chocolate, and more chocolate, because that
bribes.
kind of solves everything.
You're saying bribe. So if I'm in the office and my wife and I'm about to have a phone call, do you say that okay, to my wife, if I give you a block of chocolate, can you please take another room for the next 2 hours? These type of things.
I think.
I can guarantee that she will say yes.
Chocolate. Okay, I'll try that one. Phil, how would you? What advice do you give to these people pull their hair out?
I'd like to take credit for this next thing I'm going to say, but I'm not. I think what you do is you create more than one space that is attractive in your property.
Yeah.
And then you go to the one that's the most attractive until your other half takes it. And then you move to the one that you're happy with anyway.
Well, actually, I'm going to take credit for that because I've actually done, well, I suppose the last thing before you do that, Madeline gave me some tips during the week about if your wife won't move out of your office, you buy a Nerf gun and then you point this towards the room and says, if you don't move out of the chair, a little Nerf gun will be at the back. So people...
That's if the chocolate doesn't work.
Exactly. So go to your kids' rooms and then you can find some weapons of safety weapons, not real weapons. So yeah, if chocolate doesn't work, then find some Nerf guns and then take some actions in terms of control. But on a serious note, no, I've actually been doing this, Phil. I've been exploring since I'm very sensitive for having daylight and fresh daylight when I work. I've discovered that my son's room upstairs is the best room because it faces a nice view and it's got the best light. So I found a nice spot. But then my wife discovered it and one night she says, "Oh, this room, I'm going to try that tomorrow." I'm thinking, but hang on, that's my new workplace. So I've been finding her that some days I'm about to go up there and she's already in it. So yeah, find a new place, but don't talk to your other partner or your wife about what you found because you're soon going to lose it. So, but
then I'm kind of curious to understand, does it work the same way, when you're on beach resorts and you get up really early with your towel and put it over the chair?
That was the image that was going through my mind, Madeline. I could just imagine this Aussie towel on the chair in the bedroom saying, "No, that's mine now."
We're going to have that's a really good point. Well, I've been doing that because this stand-up desk that I work from is also a popular spot for both of us. Before going to bed, I put my laptop and spread all my books over the stand-up desk. So the next morning, that the hassle of like, oh, I've got to move short and stuff. Then I get the first, I get pole position in the morning. So, yep, follow the beach towel policy, everybody. If your hotspot is overrun by a partner or somebody else. So, but that's the thing that was going to pop up because most people aren't lucky to have a house or maybe only have a limited spaces to work from. So be inspired, look for other spots, but also find waves, as Madeline says. Buy a bribe bin, so you can use chocolates or ice creams, or if it's Friday, some beer or some wine. Say, okay, if I have the offer for you get 2 glasses of wine on a Friday.
And I do know that, I mean, at a very practical level, I mean, sales of noise cancelling headsets have just gone through the roof in the last 12 months. And, you know, increasingly you see it, the people using them on the TV, and certainly in work, you know, colleagues of mine who are in much more confined spaces use the noise cancelling headsets, and that just, you know, minimizes that background noise. You know, much as you give permission to, you know, it's okay that your family are around, it's okay that all of these things, it's still very difficult for people even 12 months in to be comfortable with the domestic background noises when they're trying to do something eminently professional in the foreground. So again, I think as leaders we can help, and I know that we've talked on previous podcasts about that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And one of the things we're going to start sending out is just like a one pager, like a sort of the future workplace kit. So we'll start putting out, like, as I said, we've talked about the headphones, we've talked about stand-up desks. So some of these things we'll start putting links and recommendations or where you can find out more for people who want to now deck out their house in a smart and intelligent way. So rather than going to every podcast we've gone back to. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, and it's Friday again, which is a good thing. And unfortunately, Phil's still in lockdown. So want to start with you, Phil. What's on for the weekend? At least we've got the rugby to look forward to. But other than that, is there anything different going on over in lockdown world over there, Phil, for the weekend?
I'd love to say there was. I'd love to say there was. No, I'll just be out trudging through the mud. And in fact, this weekend, I don't think the Six Nations are even on. So. Oh,
really? I haven't checked the schedule.
Yeah, so we've got a weekend that without England going through its journey. So just have to just fight on through, and
well, you do have
the beginning of the end.
Speaking of Australia, you do have the tennis to look forward to for those people who are tennis fans. That the Australian Open finals are on tomorrow and Sunday. So for sport people, stay tuned for Melbourne. The best tournament of tennis in the world is on this weekend. So that's one highlight. Madeline, what about your little dragon? Is it back yet from the repair? Was he or her at?
No, Dragon is still down, hoping to get her back soon. But in the meantime, I will enjoy the last of the snow because I hear it's going to melt away. So
yeah, so no ice skating. I don't think that. I know a lot of people have been ice skating over here, but your ice skating is coming down to an end. So soon you'll be like joining Phil in the slush, but we got slush snow as opposed to mud. So boots are on.
How about you, Sean?
Well, thankfully for me, I like the ice disappearing because it means I can start getting on the bike again outdoors, my mountain bike. So I'm going to take my mountain bike out in the woods for some of my training, since my cycle training has been confined to indoors for the last 4 months. But yeah, that's my excitement, and my kids and I. My wife is having a girls' night away, so the boys are having a barbecue and meat feast tomorrow night. So looking forward to that. The kids have their goodies and snakes and lollies, and I have my friend. I have big steaks on the barbecue. So that's us.
Perfect.
Nice.
Relax. Well, everybody, that's number one for the Future Workplace podcast. So we're going to kick off next week exploring some of these topics, and stay tuned for some big guests regarding helping people create their future workplace from, as I say, from the legal aspects, from the physical and the psychologist. So stay tuned for that. But until then, stay safe, have a nice weekend, and see everybody back next week.
Thank you.
You
Thanks,
too.
guys.
See you now.
Bye.
Bye.